All right, everyone. Tim Walz is a little bit of a drag, I think, on the Harris campaign. Link in the description, archived, of course. He just made a fairly major gaffe, and it reminded me of Joe Biden, actually. It reminded me of this kind of thing that he would say. He came out and said, we can't have 4 more years of this. I mean, I tend to agree with you. Yes, we can't stomach another 4 years of Biden bullshit, basically. Now, I know what he meant to say, but again, that's exactly why it reminds me of Joe Biden. Oftentimes, Biden would say something that sounded zany and off the wall. I could give you 100 examples, but I'm not even going to bother because you've probably heard of them all. And you would know what he was trying to convey as far as meaning, but it wouldn't deliver properly. And so for the independent voter, for somebody who's not, into political analysis and linguistics and stuff like that, they wouldn't know what the fuck he was saying. Tim Walz just had one of those moments. We can't stomach 4 more years of this. I realize what he intended to convey is we can't have 4 more years of Donald Trump. In other words, we can't have 4 more years of not starting wars and reigning over a generally stable economy. We need 4 more years instead of bullshit, Biden bullshit, because that's what you'll get with Kamala Harris. I realize that. I know what he was trying to convey, but that wasn't the way that he conveyed it now, was it? If you look at that clip, again, link in the description, and take the live link from the top, by the way, on archived sites. And then you can watch videos and stuff like that. It's like your delivery leaves a little bit something to be desired now, doesn't it? Kamala was probably like shitting her pants, actually, after this. Probably berated him. I can imagine she's the kind of taskmaster, if I had to guess, the dynamic between her and Walz. The dynamic would be basically if he fucks up, she punches him in the face. I really believe that that's probable. I don't think that that's unlikely. And, it makes sense. She's the big boss. She wears the big pants. Tim Walz is just the bitch, basically. He's the little bitch that walks beside her. It's going to be sort of like watching Nancy Pelosi with Chuck Schumer now, right? Nancy Pelosi is quite clearly the head dog. Chuck Schumer is... even his body language, he tends to hunch up like this. He's the little bitch. He's the bitch of Nancy Pelosi. The little lapdog. And she trots him out once in a while, and she always walks ahead of him. He's always behind her. There's a reason for that. He can be Senate Majority Leader, and she can have a minority role. She's still in charge. Everybody goddamn knows it. Hell, they're probably fucking. I don't know why you would want to with either of them, but I have a feeling that they've fucked before. Tim Walz is actually rivaling Joe Biden over a very short span of time. Actually rivaling Joe Biden in the Gaffe department. He's had numerous mistakes and failings. Now, Kamala Harris is the worst spoken of them, admittedly. The problem is that Tim Walz, as far as VP candidates have gone, he actually has a fairly outsized role. He's fairly forthcoming. He's actually, he's reasonably personable, and he's not as badly spoken as Kamala Harris. He's more personable than that. I think that he genuinely likes going out there into the public spectacle. It's a little bit of a juxtaposition, because Trump tends to subjugate those around him. So JD comes out, JD Vance, on a regular basis, but at the same time, there's a little bit of restraint. Whereas with the Kamala Harris campaign, your main candidate can't even talk to people. She can't even order a goddamn bag of Doritos without having to do a retake. Naturally, you want somebody out there who's more personable. When that person starts to fuck up, it might become more of a problem. If JD Vance fucks up, and so far he hasn't, he's cast off as weird, he's cast off as odd, he's cast off as extremist, we've heard these fucking things before. It doesn't matter as much, because Trump takes the 4. In the Kamala campaign, Kamala's hiding in the basement. Tim Walz is the one that has to go out there and actually go into the trenches and do the dirty work, because he's the bitch. And so if he fucks up, it's a little bit more meaningful, I think. JD Vance has had a couple of minor gaffes, but nothing major. He's no Dick Cheney. You don't have to worry about that. He's no Mondale or Herbert Walker or anything like that. He's got a good head on his shoulders. He's relatively well-spoken. He's got military experience. He knows what he's talking about generally. He's doing a pretty good job, despite, again, the moniker of weird. Tim Walz, meanwhile, gets the wagon circled around him by the legacy media, gets nothing but softballs, and then comes out with this. We can't stand 4 more years of this. Well, I mean, I agree with him. I think he's completely right. It's just that he's right about something that he didn't necessarily intend to actually allude to. He was talking about 4 more years of Trump, but he didn't make that clear to the audience. We can't take 4 more years. I agree. Yeah, we can't take 4 more years of Biden. That's why we're voting against Kamala Harris. That's the whole goddamn point, Tim. But he doesn't seem to fully understand this. Again, he's a little bit of an odd person. Reasonably well-spoken. He's not as gaffe-prone as Kamala, certainly not as gaffe-prone as Joe Biden, but this one rivals the sort of thing we saw with Joe Biden. Now, does he have cognitive decline? No, I don't think that at his age he has cognitive impairment or anything like that. I just think that he's not the most well-spoken potential politician. Not the most well-ordered individual as far as actual political strategy. I think JD Vance will cut him to shreds, actually. I think that when they have their vice presidential debate, JD Vance will win quite easily. This will be a blow to the Kamala campaign, by the way. Tim Walz will probably come out spouting platitudes. He has been doing this the entire time. And JD Vance will come with substantive actual issues. But one thing that I would advise for the vice presidential debates, to any Trump staffers who may be watching, and I know that at least one of them does watch me because I've literally been shouted out by the Trump campaign in the 2020 election. Here's my advice. Tell JD Vance that the voters do want to hear about the issues, and he's capable of delivering that message, which is good. But you also need emotional appeals. You need a little bit of emotion in there. You need a little bit of sloganeering. You have to sprinkle that on top of the issues. People will zone out. You're explaining your tax plan for 2 minutes. That's great. You explained a plan. Your opponent, is completely vacuous. Can't explain what plan they even have in mind. Make it for them then. Tell the American people, if you vote for my opponent, they're going to raise taxes. If you vote for my opponent, they're going to try to ban combustion-based vehicles. If you vote for my opponent, they're going to start a goddamn war. This is far more important than just the Trump-Vance ticket, by the way. This is important for our nation. If Kamala Harris wins, we might be headed for World War III. I would rather not. Just to be clear, I may crack jokes about, in the post-war scenario, I'm just going to kill all of my neighbors, take all of their stuff, and grow radioactive glow-in-the-dark leaks. That's a funny joke. But it's meant to be a joke. It's not actually meant to be reality, now is it? In reality, I'd just rather sit back in my chair, watch the normal leaks grow, and then, have a cup of tea or something like that. It's going to be hard to do that in a post-war scenario where the nukes have been flying. And Kamala Harris will be pressured, I think, to engage in such a scenario if she is elected. Tim Walz, meanwhile, is a bit of a chucklehead. Okay, he's not unintelligent, but he's gaffe-prone, and that's not the kind of person, by the way, that you want second in command with executive-level diplomacy. Not right now. We can't have that right now. We need somebody, JD Vance, for all of his failings, and he does have a couple, would be very good at foreign diplomacy. He's got military experience. That's exactly what we need right now. With Russia, with China, over the Taiwan issue, with ECOWAS, Guyana, with Ukraine, with Israel and Gaza, there are wars all over the world that have either broken out or are going to break out at this time. The President of the United States can't conduct all of the diplomacy himself. You need someone as a second in command who's capable of doing so as well. Do I believe that Kamala can conduct diplomacy? No. She'll start cackling when she's confronted with pictures of dead kids. Do I believe that Tim Walz can conduct diplomacy? To an extent, maybe, but not nearly as good as Trump or Vance. Not even close. That's about all. Peace out.